guys, and welcome back to another book video with your two favorite book nerds, Amy
and Kelly.
And today we're doing our February reading wrap-ups. We're filming this on March 1st because we both knew that we were going to have like extra books to add in, because we were going to film this like a week ago.
Yeah.
And we're like, nah, we need the extra week to add in more books. And you know what? I think I got like 2 or 3 more in.
I'm off my slump, baby, so I want the count this month. I want the count.
She's come back in over here.
I'm back.
I'm back in the saddle again. I'm back.
I'm sorry, I'm just like really fixated on my bun because I think it's lopsided, so sorry.
We're tired. It's been a long year this week.
Okay, but we're here to talk about books.
We're here, yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about books, baby. So, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first? Or like, what do you want to?
I think I went first last time because you had the whole stack.
Yes, I got another stack this month. Alrighty.
Okay.
So, February, I read 11 books.
Again with the 11.
With the 11 books. Heck yeah, it's quite a stack. But once again, our ratings were not great.
Oh no.
I know. Like,
it sucks.
It's quantity over quality these past couple months.
Yes.
And I am not liking it.
But
So for the ratings, I had 0 5-stars, which is not a shocker for me.
No.
It's rare that I give out a 5-star.
yes.
We had 1 4-star, 6 3-stars, 2 2-stars, and 2 1-stars.
Ooh. Okay, now that's not good.
Yeah, average rating of 2.5 stars for the month of love. There wasn't a lot of love,
Not a lot of love.
going for these books this month, but oh wellsies.
I read 7 books, which is
A big improvement over
big
January.
improvement over January and December. December kind of sucked too. Anyway, I had 1 5-star, 4 4-stars, and 2 3-stars for an average of 3.9.
Wow.
I know.
Look at you go. All right.
I know.
All right, so for me, total pages I read in February was 4,146 pages for an average of 377 pages.
Ooh. Long books that you didn't like.
Sadly.
That really sucks.
Yeah. My longest book, speaking of long books,
yes, speaking
my
of long.
longest book was The Ritual by Chantel Tessier, hang on. Chantel Tessier was my longest at 618 pages. Ooh. And the shortest was What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher at 147.
There you go. I will say I almost had 8 because I DNF'd a book.
Oh.
But it was over 500 pages and I read over half of it. So
Oh yeah, I forgot.
There should be another.
Yeah.
I should have another like 250 pages in there, but still. I DNF'd it and I don't count those, so there you go. So my pages were 2,240 for an average of 320. My shortest was also What Feasts at Night, and my longest was Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher at 426 pages. So my longest and shortest were both T. Kingfisher books.
Yeah. Wow.
Which I read 4 T. Kingfisher books.
I was gonna say, I'm like, you were reading quite a few last month. I remember, so
yeah.
That's not
So there
surprising.
you go. Yep.
Alright, so for authors, I had 7 authors that were new to me. H.D. Carlton, Bryn Weaver, Becky Albertalli, Nicola Marsh, Dana Schwartz, Ali Hazelwood, and Chantel Tessier. I will read from all of them again. But most of them will only be getting one more chance. Like H.D. Carlton and Bryn Weaver and Ali Hazelwood and Chantel Tessier. Any romance-related author is only getting one more chance for me.
You really would read from H.D. Carlton again?
Yes, and I will tell you why when we get to talking about the books. Because I
Okay.
read 2 H.D. Carlton books in February.
Oh, that's true. You did. That's true. That's right. I forgot
So-
about that. You read that other one.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then I had 2 authors that I've read from before, which were Stephen King and T.K. Fisher. Don't know why I couldn't think of
I don't know.
But yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so I had 3 that were new to me, which was Deanna Raybourn, Dana Schwartz, and Bryn Weaver. I did, H.D. Carlton was the book I DNF'd, so there's that. I don't know about Bryn Weaver, if I will read from her again. I'm not going to go on, the book we read is part of a series. I'm not going to go on with the series, but she's not a great writer, but yet there's something about that book.
Yeah, it was just like so easy to read.
Yeah, and it did make me laugh. And I don't, so maybe. She's a maybe. The other ones, yeah. Especially like, well, Dana Schwartz, we're going to read the sequel that we read. And Deanna Raybourn actually is the author of the Veronica Speedwell series. And I have wanted to read that. So I'll read from her again. The other 4 books were T. Kingfisher books. So she's a repeat, and I've read from her obviously before too. Working my way through her list of like 25 books.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include her comics that she's written too. So I don't do comics, so I'm just gonna
It's a lot.
working my way.
Getting closer every day.
That's right. Working my way back to you, babe. I don't know the rest of those words. Okay.
I don't know the song at all. Okay, finally for the stats we have genres.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 2 horror, 2 mystery thriller, 3 dark romances, 2 romance, and then 2 YA romances. So much romance.
That's a lot.
This is too much.
Yeah.
It was too much.
Okay, this month I had 3 fantasy, I had 1 general fiction, 1 romance, 1 horror, and 1 YA romance historical fiction. That's how Anatomy was classified. It was just historical fiction was the very first one, because I didn't know what to call it.
Alright.
This is kind of a romance.
On to the books.
The books.
The books.
The books.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so let's just get it out the way, the ones that I'm not going to talk about in depth. And that is going to be Butcher and Blackbird and Haunting Adeline. I don't have a physical copy. I will never have a physical copy of that book. We read these for Reading Popular Book Talk Books videos, so you can go and check that out. Haunting Adeline is one of the books I gave 1 star to. Technically negative million, but Goodreads only lets you do 1 star, so that's the lowest I could go.
Book Talk sucks.
I hated that book so much. I'm also not going to really talk about What Feasts at Night and Anatomy, because we also did a video on these books where we did reading books with red on the cover. So go check out that video for our thoughts on these. Definitely recommend this one for sure. Okay, so the first book that I read in February was The Outsider by Stephen King. So this book opens up on the murder of this kid. Like, he was sexually assaulted, like, very violently, and murdered out in the woods, this, like, 10-year-old boy. And the police believe that they have the guy, that it was his baseball coach that had done it. But then it turns out that his baseball coach was actually at a conference in like a town that's few hours away, because he's also like an English teacher, so it's like an English teachers conference, and he's like on video at this conference. But eyewitnesses are saying that they saw him walking out of the woods where the boy was found. So how is this man in 2 places at once? Don't know, but the cops were so convinced that he was their guy, and so they arrested him, and shit just goes wild from there. Because they arrested him in public, like in front of, like at the final baseball game, right before the deciding run. They walked out and arrested him in front of everybody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was a big show, and they're so confident that he was their man. And he was not their man.
He was not.
Or was he? I don't know. You have to read the book to find out. But I was hesitant about reading this book because it's part of like the Holly Gibney and Mr. Mercedes world or whatever. I didn't like Mr. Mercedes trilogy that much. I hated Holly. So I'm like, okay, Give me something good. Stephen King gave me something good.
Ah.
Okay, this one I gave 3 stars. It wasn't like really good, mainly because the second half of the book was definitely more Stephen King-esque in the way of like, why do we have all of this useless information?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was just drug out a little bit more and a little bit more slow than the beginning. Like the beginning, that first half of the book was so good. It was like, I was so intrigued. It was thrilling. Like I was like on the edge of my seat just trying to figure out like what the heck is going on. I was just like, my mind is blown right now. I don't even know what to think. It was just so good, and it just kept me guessing. Like I was just as lost as the police department was, the cops were. The very end and things picked up again and it was good. So I just think that this book, 200 pages shorter, and it would have been an easy 4-star. But it was just a little bit too long in some parts, but it was still pretty good. I recommend this one. Out of all of the books in that universe, this one. Just read this one. Skip the others. Especially skip this one.
Oh.
Because this is supposed to be the sequel to The Outsider. Okay, I say supposed to be because this is actually a collection of short stories. And none of them really deal with The Outsider. There is one story in here called If It Bleeds, which does kind of come after what happened in The Outsider. It has Holly in it, and she's chasing a monster, and she's trying to solve this crime and this mystery and all of it, but it's not the same kind of like stuff that was happening in The Outsider. I think that this book would have been a lot better if it wouldn't have had all the other short stories in it, because I didn't understand the reasoning for all the other short stories, because they had absolutely nothing to do with Holly, with The Outsider, with Mr. Mercer, nothing. They were just random short stories that got thrown into this book.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't even that good. They really weren't. I think I gave each of the short stories either a 1 or a 2-star. They were just so bad. So I almost DNF'd this book before I even got to the main story. So just next time, keep them separate. And if I want to read your short stories, I'll go seek them out. But I just felt like it wasn't very well done. A lot of things happened very conveniently for Holly, and it was just way too easy of like her being able to solve it and her being able to kill the monster and all of that. Like it was literally just like, like she hit the monster or whatever, and oh, he's dead, we're good, everyone's fine. And I'm like, really? Oh. All of this build-up? There wasn't even that much of a build-up. It was just like, oh, I need to figure this out. Oh, I'm conveniently getting a phone call from this person who knows everything that I need to know in order to fight this monster. And then now I know how to take him down, and I have a plan, and the plan works, and then the monster's dead. Oh. Like, how is that a thrilling story? It's not. The second book that I read, because I mentioned earlier that I read another book by H.G. Carlton, and that was Satan's Affair. I also don't have a physical copy of that one. I read it on Kindle Unlimited. Luckily it was free. Not that I hated it. I really did, honestly, I thought it was pretty darn good. And I had read it before Haunting Adeline, because in the Amazon description or somewhere, it had mentioned that they highly recommend that you read Satan's Affair, the prequel, first. And so I'm like, alright, I mean, it's really short, it's like 180 pages or whatever, and so why not? It's about this haunted house that's at a traveling horror fair, and there is this girl who's part of the haunted house.
I know, there's already flies. We have 3 warm days in February, and here come the flies.
Yeah. Way to go, Kansas. But there's this girl who is part of the haunted house, and she like lives and works in the walls of the house, so no one else ever sees her. Like none of the people that go through the house ever see her, but it's her job to like smell out the evil and the demons. And so when people come walking in, she can like smell when someone is like truly evil and is like a demon, and then she's like, that's my target for tonight, I'm gonna take them out. It was definitely It was a lot at times. As far as the like smut scenes go, it was a lot. It definitely was a good prepper for Haunting Adeline. There weren't any, it was all consensual though, so I was okay with that. And I thought that even though that they were a lot, they were good. I liked them. Some of them were a little weird and had me going like, is that even anatomically possible? For sure. I was just like, that sounds painful and also not possible with those angles, but okay, it was just hard to picture some of it. But overall I thought it was done really well, and I also thought that the story was pretty interesting. Like, you have this girl who can, apparently this is her power. She comes from a cult, and like she was like raised in this cult, and she like ran away from them, and now she has the power to like smell out evil. I don't know, it just sounded really good. And then the ending comes and I was just like, what? It shook me. I was like, are you kidding? I did not see it coming at all. There was this twist in there that I was just like, I wasn't even expecting a twist, but I got one, and it was so good. It was so good. So yeah, like, after I read Satan's Affair, I did only give it 3 stars just because there were things obviously like that confused me, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But I was really excited to read Haunting Adeline after Satan's Affair.
You know why it was better? Because Zayd wasn't in it.
He was in it though.
Yeah, but for like a tiny bit.
Yeah, he literally just popped in for a second. But I didn't know that it was Zayd.
Yeah.
Because like he's just called Z.
Z.
I really did like that one a lot, so that's why I'm gonna give H.D. Carlton another chance. I think just outside of the Zayd and Adeline realm, because I think she has other books that are.
Yeah, it just.
Kelly just killed a fly. She Karate Kid did that fly.
Yeah, it's February. They're slow.
Mr. Miyagi.
Because I think I would probably like Satan's Affair, because I would probably really like that main character. But it's like, if she ever did a full book with that main character, I bet you she would ruin it.
Oh, 100%.
Because I bet you she would turn into an Adeline.
Yeah.
She'd have to have.
Yeah, like I think
she'd have to have some crap guy. Yeah, I don't trust her anymore.
Yeah,
I don't trust her.
The Upside Down of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. I gave this book 2 stars. It's been sitting on my shelf for a really long time. It's a YA romance, hence it's been sitting on my shelf for a really long time. It's about 17-year-old Molly who has had 26 crushes and no boyfriends, but her luck is about to change when a couple of boys enter into her life, including her nerdy co-worker who might turn her love life upside down.
Oh.
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 Oh. I didn't go into this with very high expectations because it is a YA book. I tried to not let those expectations though like affect how I saw the book, because I knew that I wasn't the target demographic. So I'm just like, I'm not going to be like overly critical. However, I feel like there was a need to be critical in certain aspects. So the amount of whining that happens in this book was so cringy and just way too much. Like, every other sentence that came out of Molly's mouth was just like, I want a boyfriend. I want a boy. Like, why doesn't boys like me? Or, I'm too fat for boys to like me. That was another big thing, was always talking about her weight and how she's just too fat. And I'm like, oh my god, you don't need a boy. Dear God. Dear God. Boys suck. Okay? Boys suck. Like, you're better off, bitch. Okay? Let me tell you. I swear. And then her twin sister, Cassie, who of course was the complete opposite of her, and boys loved her, and she wasn't fat and all of that. She was a bitch to Molly. Like,
of course.
Oh man. Yeah.
Of course.
It was the Cassie show all of the time. She was super selfish. I didn't like her, and I could not understand, like, where's the sister love? I need this. Like, it's not happening here. And also, I felt like, aside from, you know, Molly being whiny and Cassie being a bitch, there wasn't a whole lot else to them. or to any of the characters, quite frankly. They were all very, like, one-dimensional. There was no personality to any of them. They all blurred together in my brain while reading it. And it needed more of the good stuff and not so much whining about how badly I need a boyfriend. I also think it would have been a lot better if Molly would have learned to love herself first instead of having to be always validated by the boys, because she based a lot of her self-worth, even when these other boys came in and started showing her interest, it all hinged on them, like how she felt about herself.
Yeah.
And I like didn't like that. Like, this should have been...
How old is this book? 2017. Not that long ago.
Self-esteem should not come from boys liking you! Exclamation point. That's what I put here.
Big exclamation points.
Okay, next up I have another book that I read on Kindle Unlimited, The Last Wife by Nicola Marsh. I read this book because one of the TikTokers that I follow is reading it for their book club, which I missed the live for. Now I realize that was
So I read it for nothing.
I read it for nothing, but actually, I mean, it wasn't bad. I gave it 3 stars. It's about the very prestigious Parker family who becomes a target of a mystery person that's threatening to expose their darkest secrets. And Rhea, the abandoned ex-wife of the youngest Parker brother, takes it upon herself to try and secretly find out who's targeting her family, because she's kind of like an investigative journalist. And so this mystery person started sending her emails that is like exposing all of the other wives in the family, like their secrets. And so Rhea knows all of the secrets now, and she's trying to figure out who this person is. The beginning started off really strong. Like, I remember I was reading it and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this book is so good. There was a ton of mystery, a ton of intrigue. Like, it had me pulled in, like sucked in for sure. And I definitely was like super interested in trying to figure out what the secrets were, because they didn't tell you right off the bat. Like, these emails are just like, and now I know so and so's secret, or like, and now I know this, or like whatever. Like, you didn't know what the secrets were. And I was just like, oh, what could it be? Like, they're like playing this up like it's gonna be something so crazy and so wild. I'm just like, oh my god. And then some of the secrets got revealed and I'm like, that's it? That's it? That's what it was? Oh. I also thought that the romances that happened in this book, the relationships were weird. That's the best way that I can describe it. The book also had multiple POVs throughout it, so you would get it from Rhea's point of view and then from the other wives, mainly. Sometimes some of the other brothers or whatever. And that was great. Like, I loved having all the multiple POVs, except there was a lot of repetition. So, like, you would have, like, from Rhea's perspective, and then you'd go to, like, Shamira's perspective or Ashlyn's, and it would be like the same thing that we just read with Rhea.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay,
that's annoying.
Yeah, I also didn't like the villain reveal at the end. It kind of shocked me, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it did shock me because I was not expecting that, but it was just done poorly. And the villain had a monologue, and I hate when villains have monologues, because it's just like, anytime there's a monologue, it's just like one of those I'm twirling my mustache villains, you know, and that has no place in my thriller books. Okay, there's nothing thrilling about that. That's Scooby-Doo. Okay.
Yeah, like, but it's like, yeah, killing time for someone to come up with something good.
Yeah, just like, oh my gosh, just do it.
People don't do that.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in
Any
real life.
competent villain's just gonna shoot you.
Exactly. Exactly. And the way that the villain tried to take someone out at the end of the book too was like, really? And the way that they escaped was like, really? Oh, it was disappointing, to say the least. So I had high hopes when I started it, and I ended a little disappointed. I think it could have been done better. So I read The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This book I just got last year from Book of the Month. This is one of my Book of the Month picks. Yay. This book is about Olive, who she is a scientist. She's a PhD student, and she is very, very single. And her friend On, the only other woman in their PhD program pretty much, is very interested in Olive's ex-boyfriend. And On won't pursue Olive's ex-boyfriend because she doesn't want to break girl code. And Olive is like trying to tell her that no, like, it's okay, you can go date him, and like, I'm fine with it, I'm okay with not having a boyfriend, you can go after Jeremy or whatever. And On's just like, I don't believe you, I don't believe you. And so Olive thinks that the only way to make On believe that it's okay for her to go after Jeremy is to start dating somebody else. And so she sees On walking in the hallway, and Olive immediately turns and kisses the first random stranger that's right there. And this random stranger happens to be one of the professors at the program that she's in.
Oh.
Yeah. And so On sees them, and she talks to Olive, and Olive's just like, yeah, I was on a date. And she's just like, you were on a date with Professor Carlson and all this stuff or whatever. And Olive and Carlson ended up coming to this agreement where they're going to fake date, so that way On can go and date Jeremy and all of that. So it's a fake dating thing. I literally filmed a clip after reading this book because I knew that I wasn't going to have time to go and write down my thoughts before whatever, and I didn't want to forget. So I recorded a clip in my car, and it was just me yelling. Just me yelling. Okay, I don't have time to write down my thoughts on this book before I go, and I want to say my thoughts before I forget because I have a rant. Oh my god. This book let me down. It did me dirty. I'm so upset. And it started out cringy, and I'm like, oh, this ain't gonna be good. I'm not gonna like this. And then there were some cute moments, and I'm like, okay, I don't hate it. You know, solid 3. That's where we're sitting at. Solid 3. At one point, I even contemplated a 4 because it was just cute, and I just really like Carlson just so much. And then the 3rd act breakup happened. And you knew it was coming. You knew it was coming because there's always the 3rd act breakup. Oh my god. I wanted to punch this book. I physically did punch the book while I was reading it because I was so upset by what they chose for the breakup. Oh my god. The whole last part of the book pissed me off so much. My face the whole time was like, Why? I hate miscommunication tropes. I hate it when one character thinks that, oh, I need to keep this from them because I already know how. No, just tell them the fucking truth and you would have been fine. I am so angry. That book is now 1.5, 2 star. 2 star at max. Like, oh my gosh. Because once that happened, once the breakup happened and all of that fun jazz, well, then it just made me like really think about the book and like, was it even that good? And then I realized that there was a lot of just repeat things and things that made me cringe, and now I'm just like, man, I really didn't like this book. It made me rethink my whole thoughts on the book. Oh my god, I'm so mad. So mad. I could have actually liked it, and then that happened and had to go ruin it. Glad that's off my TBR. The final book. I swear this is it. The Ritual by Chantal Tessier. This is about a girl who becomes a chosen, aka a sex slave, for a lord in this secret society called House of Lords, and it leads to a ton of drama and love? Question mark? Wouldn't call it love, but they claim it was. This book was a lot. I literally had to stop reading this book and like set it down and go read something different because there was too much smut for me. It was too much. It literally the first part of this book, it was every single page started, like, it was smut at every single page.
Oh, wow.
It was too much. And I just was like, I am sore reading this. And I can't imagine how sore you two in the book are. Because it's like... Yeah, so about 40% of the way through, I just was like, nope, we're going to take a break from this. Okay, this is too much for me. I also learned from this book that I do not like the whole domination and degrading.
The dom sub?
Yep.
I don't like that either.
No, this book solidified that for me because that was pretty much the whole thing. Like, when I say that she was a sex slave for the Lord, she was a sex slave. And he did not care if she got roughed up in the process. I also, even though the smut scenes were a lot, I got very bored with them because it was like the same thing every single time, pretty much. It was always just like handcuffs and let's put your underwear in your mouth and tape it. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Ew, who wants that?
I do think that the storyline, once you wove your way past all of the smut scenes, the storyline was interesting, but it was also very messy in the fact that, like, there were just so many things that were happening. I was just confused most of the time, and then with having so much smut in the book, the storyline got very lost very fast, and I was just like, where's our timeline? How are we here now? And yeah, I was like kind of sad because the storyline really interested me. I wanted to learn more about House of Lords and all of that, like their whole secret society, because it sounded very interesting. Like, they literally train these men to be assassins and like do jobs and stuff like that. Like, but the very end of the book where the twists and the big reveals came out, oh my god, I literally was like, oh my god, what? Like, jaw on the floor. They were so good. Overall, I just think that the book was about 300 pages too long, because this was like a 600 page book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so condense that shit, please.
The whole dark romance thing, I think, is just all kind of ick.
I think it just...
It's all kind of ick.
Maybe.
I don't know. I think they're just trying to, like... Too many authors are just trying to go as hard as they can. And it's like, ick.
Yeah.
Go back and learn how to tell a story.
Please.
That was my turn. My turn.
I'm gonna sit back now.
So the books I'm really not going to talk about that I did finish, Killers of a Certain Age, which was our January book club book, but that I actually finished in February. So you can go see that. It's just about a group of ladies who were assassins, and now they are verging on retiring. They're in their early 60s or so, and a hit gets put out on them, and so they have to figure out what's going on. So there's that. Also, as Amy said, Anatomy and What Feasts at Night. I actually gave this 4 stars. I gave Killers of a Certain Age, I gave 3 stars too, but I gave this 4 stars because, yeah, I like the writing. It was really good. It really carried it for me. And surprisingly, I gave Anatomy 4 stars as well, which I did forget to say in our video about this. The front cover blurb is from Neil Gaiman, so that's probably what made me buy it the first place.
That was the indication that this is probably going to be a book you like.
I am probably going to like this book. So there's that. Also, I as well read Butcher and Blackbird, which I gave 3 stars to. And again, I DNF'd Haunting Adeline. Adeline, whatever. I don't care. I could not push through. So, my last 3 books were all by T. Kingfisher. I'm going to talk about, I don't have physical copies, so The Clockwork Boys and The Wonder Engine at the same time, because really, she wrote a book and then decided it was too long, so she split it into 2 books. So really with these two books, read them like they're one book, because the first book is not as good as the second book, but if they were together in one book, it'd be much better.
So which one's the first one?
So Clockwork Boys is the first one. In this fantasy world, there are two city-states that are at war with each other. There's Dowager City and there's Anuket City. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think that's what it is. Anyway, Anuket City has these machines that the Dowager City people call Clockwork Boys. So they are these big, basically some kind of mechanical, there's kind of a steampunk vibe going through here, that killing machines. You can't hardly destroy them. They just go and go, and it's obviously very destructive. So in order to combat this, they have sent teams of people to try and infiltrate, figure out, and all of them are either missing or confirmed dead. And so we come down to our group that's coming along now, which is a group of criminals. So we have an assassin, Brenner. We have the forger, Slate. And we have a paladin who is like, there's many gods in this world. And so the dreaming god is the one that chooses these guys that go out, or these people, because there's women too, these people who go out and hunt demons and kill demons, and they're called paladins. But Caliban was possessed, and while he was possessed, he mass murdered 8 nuns and novices in his order. So they did an exorcism. They could not get the demon out, but the demon did die. So basically Caliban has a dead demon in his head that kind of acts like a ghost because it still talks to him. So because he was possessed, they didn't give him the death sentence. But because he was possessed, a paladin that was possessed, he did still murder all those people. So they threw him in prison to basically just rot. Anyway, Slate gets caught forging. And so instead of punishing her, she was going to get put to death because she got caught forging documents that got her convicted of treason. Nice. So, yeah. And she didn't really know what she was doing. It was just a job. She really didn't understand, but still. So the Dowager gives her the choice. You can go on this mission or get hung. And so obviously Slate says that she will do it. And she gets to pick her team. So she picks Brenner, who is a friend and also an ex-lover of hers. And then she goes to the prison, and she has this ability. Her great-grandmother was what they call a wonder worker. And she could kind of like sniff out magic. And so whenever Slate is around, basically whenever Slate needs to be warned about something, she gets this really strong smell of rosemary in her nose. And Slate is allergic to everything. So she's constantly sniffling and sneezing and through this whole thing. But whenever she gets a really strong whiff of rosemary, it really sets off her allergies. But she goes to the prison and she's looking at like thieves and murders and all of this. And then as she's passing this hallway, she gets hit by rosemary and she's like, what's down there? And it turns out it's Caliban. So you go down there. Anyway, they get him out. To keep them in line, which made me think of Suicide Squad in some ways. So to keep these criminals in line and on task, they get these tattoos on their arm. And it's like a really bad drawing of an animal with sharp teeth. And if they go off task or try and just run away, this tattoo will eat them alive. So.
That's awesome.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so anyway, they're also going with this other priest, or dedicate is what they call him, Learned Edmund, who is so funny. Learned Edmund, because his order is from the many the many-armed god, and they are a complete order of men, and they're pretty cloistered. You don't have a lot of interaction, but basically they're all geniuses. But they have really strange concepts of women and basically people who aren't men, people who aren't smart men. So like in the beginning, Learned Edmund won't even speak to Slate, won't even look at her. And then as they're traveling, of course, they have to split into rooms and stuff. And Caliban ends up sleeping on Slate's floor because Learned Edmund won't sleep in her room because her female exaltations will turn his bowels to water. It's so funny. The way they make fun of him and the things they do, it's just so funny. So anyway, this first book deals with them traveling to Anuket City, which is where they know the Clockwork Boys are being built. And so their mission is to go, get in there, and figure out where these things are coming from, how they're being, if they're made, if they're created, if they're something they found and brought to life. Whatever. That's their mission. So this is how they get there. And there's all kinds of dangers because there's this no man's land between the two cities that's really dangerous. There is this forest called the Vagrant Forest that they have to get through, and it likes to basically eat people alive and misdirect so you get lost and die. And there's creatures that live in this forest that you have to get to. Plus they're passing through this countryside. They go through these villages, and there's this sickness, like a plague going on that's called the Blight. So they have to kind of navigate that. And of course, just together. And I have said before, it's in quest stories, I just love the part where they sit around the campfire and they, they're like talking, because you get so much relationship building and so much character building in those times. And with Learned Edmund along, he was so funny. So funny. And I also like it because these characters are all older. Like Caliban is pushing 40, Slate is just turned 30, and Brenner is right around, they never say for sure, but just the fact that they've been longtime friends and kind of co-workers sometimes. They were ex-lovers. You kind of get the idea they're around the same age. And then you have Edmund, who's 19. It's just so funny. He cracked me up. So anyway, that is the first book, is getting there. Now the second book, which is The Wonder Engine, is them in the city. So none of them expect to live through this. None of them do. It's a suicide mission. They know that from the start. And so, I mean, of course, because there's 2 books, they're going to make it to the city. So that's not. But anyway, if they make it back, they get full pardons. If they accomplish their goal, they get full pardons. And of course, the tattoo removed. So they don't get eaten up. Yeah. So the Wonder Engine is them in the city. And it turns out, you find out that Slate is actually originally from Anuket City, and that she left under very bad terms, and there's a danger to her in this city if she's recognized. You kind of see them, Brenner and Slate especially, in their underworld contacts. They go to this place called the Shadow Market, which is so cool. And it's kind of funny too, because Caliban as the paladin, he's the really tall, broad, handsome guy. He's the knight, right? And they just make fun of him all the time because he can't go anywhere quietly. He wears armor, so he's always clanking around. And they're like, he's always saying like, well, I'll go in disguise. And they're like, really, what? And then he gets a floppy hat, and they're like, you're still 6'5". You cannot. You are just like a siege engine. You're not subtle. So there's a lot of that kind of interaction. And there is a little romance in it. And at the end of the first book, or close to the end of the first book, there's another character that's mentioned who is a non-human character. It's a gnoll. And his name is Grimhug. And he's really funny. And so you get this whole culture of these gnolls. And of course, Learned Edmund is just fascinated and trying to learn everything. And anyway, they get to the city and things go from there. You find out. In the second book, at the end, there was a twist. No, it was kind of a twist. I did not see coming at all. I was reading on my Kindle, but when I got there, I went, no effing way. And I did not use those words. So.
Oh, dang.
And it was so good because you can see right where it came from. I mean, but the things that led to it, the reasons that all the other characters were blowing it off, there was perfectly reasonable explanations why it wasn't what it was, but it was, once you knew what it was like so obvious and just, oh my God, it was so good. It was so good. So I gave The Wonder Engine 5 stars. I gave Clockwork Boys 4 stars. Just because the whole traveling part, there was things going on, but it was just slower, little more meandering. Things really happened in The Wonder Engine. Plus the Clockwork Boys was a lot shorter. It was 231 pages where The Wonder Engine was 370 pages. So I know she cut it at a place that it made sense. But I really think if she just kept them together, you know, yeah, it would have been like a 600-page book, but still.
So was the ritual in that book. Didn't deserve to be that long.
Yeah. But also, these books are fairly old, so I think this was like 2018. So maybe for the time, big old chunky fantasy books like that. And it's not a real heavy fantasy either. It's not like your big political, there's politics in it, but it's not your heavy political religious. It's really much, it's not lighthearted, but it's lighter reading. And like I said, there is a romance in there, and there's redemption arcs in here, and man-eating tattoos. I mean, it's great. I loved them. Okay, so that was those two books. And then I read Swordheart by T. Kingfisher, which is also set in the world of the Clockwork Boys, but it's later. It's set after the events in that book. So this book follows Hala, who is widowed, and she is a housekeeper to her dead husband's uncle. Silas, I think his name was. I don't remember. Anyway, when her husband died, she was basically left penniless, and she had nowhere to go, and there was reasons that she couldn't go to her family, and none of her husband's family would take her in except for this uncle. And he said, sure, come live with me, be my housekeeper. And he was wealthy, he was eccentric, he was a collector of all odd things. So he dies, and he leaves his entire estate to Hala, which of course pisses off his relatives, his children and grandchildren. And so they have this plan that Hala will marry one of Silas's grandchildren, and then that way everything comes and stays in the family. So this would be basically Hala's nephew by marriage is who they want her to marry. So she's like, no. First of all, he's gross. Sweaty palms. He has sweaty hands.
Oh, no.
Clammy hands. That's her big objection. It says clammy hands. But she's like, no. And so they end up locking her in her room. Locking her in this room, and they will not let her out. And they're like not feeding her. They're not giving her anything. And she's just in there. She has tried to sneak out. She can't get out. She's tried to like be clever and get her way out. She's even tried to like force her way out. Like they'll come in and to talk to her. This guy's mother will come and talk to her. I can't remember their names right now. Will come in and talk to her, and she's like thinking she's going to force her way out, but this would be her sister-in-law by marriage. Her other sister's there to back her up, so she can't get out. Anyway, Hala has decided that the only way that she can get out of any of this is if she just kills herself. Because if she marries this guy, then all of her money goes to him and his family. So if she has to marry him and then she dies, they get all her money. But she's got 2 nieces that are young, and she wants the money for their dowry. So she's thinking if she kills herself before they force her to get married, then all her money goes to her nieces. And that's what she's going to do. So in the room where they've locked her up, there is this sword hanging on the wall. Because Silas is a collector, he's got all kinds of junk all over the place. She goes and gets this sword, and when she draws the sword out of the scabbard, this magical knight appears in her room. And his name is Sarkis. And he is the servant of the sword. So at some centuries before, for reasons that you do find out, Sarkis was, his soul basically was put into the sword. And so anytime his wielder, he has a wielder, the owner of the sword draws the sword, he appears. And then he can fight for his wielder. He can be a soldier or a knight for the wielder. So he gets Hala out, and they decide that he's going to help her get away. They're traveling to, I can't remember exactly which city they were traveling to, but they were going to get help because they were going to go, again, this world, same world, lots of gods in this world. They were going to the Temple of the White Rat because these are this world's lawyers. And they're going to go there and they're going to ask for help to force the other family members out and get them out of her life and get her inheritance back so she can give it to her nieces. So that's what they go to do. So, of course, it's traveling. They're on the run because things happen on their way out of the city. And so they're on the run. The authorities are after them and all this stuff. So they have to go through, their adventures, and they have to camp in the woods and travel like that. And basically you learn Sarkis' story, you learn a little more about Hala's story. And it's just fun. It's a romance. And they are so cute together. It really is. They're just adorable. And how Sarkis takes care of her, because Hala has not had the best, even when she was married, it was not the best marriage. And so, there's things that she takes for granted as just being the way that they are. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? So anyway, they get along, they get to the city. There's a friend of Uncle Silas's that agrees to kind of help them. They spend the night there and he agrees to help them. He's also a big collector, and he helps them get on. A Knoll appears again, which they're funny. And they're also joined, they get to the temple and they get help from the Temple of the White Rat, and there is a priest. I can't remember his name though. Anyway, the priest goes back with them to the city, and they are going to help Hala. And so adventures happen. There's a twist at the end that you kind of find out that, Hala has enemies where she didn't know she had enemies, and that Sarkis is a little more of a hot commodity than any of them ever thought he was because of his magical abilities. There's also other temples that get involved because they want the magic of the sword. So they're getting involved in this. And I do believe that this is the start of a series because there were 2 other soldiers with Sarkis who got put into swords as well. And there's strong hints that those swords are still around. So I think there's probably going to be 2 others. But there's you find out a lot of Sarkis' history and the story and what happened and why they were put into these swords and how that affects the romance between Hala and Sarkis. And it's just so good. It's just so good. I loved it. I loved it. It was only 4 stars though. I listened to the majority of it on an audiobook, and the voice wasn't great. The voice was not great. It was a female narrator, and she did voices. And so when she was doing Sarkis's voice, at first he had a Scottish accent. So I thought he was Scottish. And then it started to sound like Norse, like Norwegian or, Viking, kind of giving you a Viking vibe. So I was like, well, okay, so that could make sense too, because the kind of lifestyle that they described for Sarkis, okay, sure. He was a mercenary in his previous life. And then at times he almost sounded Russian. Yeah, I don't...
Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't know. But her voice for Halla was fine. And her voice for the lawyer, their voice was fine. But yeah, it's just some of the other voice. I just couldn't. And she just made the sister-in-law that was trying to steal her inheritance, just made her sound like every mustache twirling. So I think it probably lost a star for me because of the audiobook. But now that I have the physical book, I'm going to read it again at some point. I bet you it will be a 5-star at that point. Because I can't really point to any events in the book or the story. There was no inconsistencies in the story that really... I think I just didn't enjoy it because of the way it was read to me.
It could be. It's kind of what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. So anyway, but Sarkis and Halla, so cute. So cute together. It was so sweet. And I do hope, I'm pretty sure, she's writing 2 more books to go along with this to get the other 2 mercenaries that Sarkis was in charge. He was the commanding officer of these group of mercenaries. But it was also written in like 2018. So she's taking her time about it. There is another set of books called the Paladin books that are also set in this world that are after this in the timeline of the world. And there are 4 books in that series. And those are next. I'm going to be reading those next. Because, yeah, I really like these books. And for T. Kingfisher, they're very long. And it's much more traditional fantasy quest story fantasies. But, yeah, there's quite a bit of romance in there. So, I think that's it. In this quick.
Okay.
Now
that we're not talking about all those books, hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video. Well, hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, go on down below the video, hit that little red subscribe button, join the Everyday Adventure family so you can see our beautiful faces every Sunday with new book videos. Also be sure to go and follow us on TikTok and Instagram for even more bookish content and just general updates and book things and whatever. We're over there at Everyday Epic Book Club for both TikTok and Instagram. And if you want even more things from the Everyday Adventure family, then you can go and join channel memberships where you get early access to the non-book related content. We're working on it. And also you can get some members only videos and some live streams every now and again. So go and join channel memberships so you don't miss out on all of that extra stuff.
And for more stuff, head over to the channel and see all the other things that she has that are not book-related content. Things like home decor and organization and cats and travel and cookie bake-offs and home renovations. I mean, it's everywhere. And you can also go and check out her blog where you can find articles that support some of the videos on our channel and some that are standalone all by themselves, like restaurant reviews on Foodie Fridays and go watch some Netflix shows. It's something like that. It's Watch It Wednesdays. Yes. So things like that as well. All that more stuff, you can go over there and just become, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. You can check out all of that and become a part of the whole Everyday Adventurer family.
Okay. We need to figure out a better transition for this, but until then, hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. And I'm Amy.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the Everyday Epic. See y'all in the next one.